For demonstration purposes, I'm going to switch to my own customized UI, which gives us a slightly bigger viewer panel. First time open the script in Nuke, you will see something like this, a red bar on the top of the view 1 panel. This means the media files are disconnected. All you need to do, for instance, if you see error message like this, double click the plate. Then in the properties section here, the first slot, then click this black folder. Navigate to the location where your project folder is saved. Double check the original path, and we can say the actual EXR file is saved inside the BG plate 2K. We just need to find it, then go to case study 1, background plate, and BJ plate 2K, highlight it, get into it, then click it. This is the actual sequence and matches the original path. Then highlight it, open it. If we highlight the plate and press 1 key, we can load the plate in the view 1 panel. This shot was filmed by a red camera. Because of the color space attached to this plate, everything seems quite dark, but increase the gain slider so I can see more details in the shadows, for instance. If we take a look at the entire sequence here, we can see this is a dolly shot. And towards the beginning of the shot, we see a lady's face here, and the hands are moving at certain frames, as you can see this area. Okay, because the hands are moving, it casts shadows on the wall in the background. You see it? This area. And also some cables and rigs on the ground. So with the basic understanding of the components in the shot, we need to remove the lady's face here, and both hands, and also the shadows on the wall, and also these cables on the ground. In the second section is to remove film grain by using a denoise node. The reason for that is because it's a quite noisy shot in the shadows. The film grain embedded in this shot will cause issues, especially for 2D, 3D tracking and also for keying. So we need to remove film grain from the original plate, then start the following operations such as 2D tracking or 3D tracking tasks. To do that, they will use a default Nuke denoise node. All you need to do is just to press the tab key and denoise. Then you just need to connect the source input directly to the original plate. Immediately you can see a red bar. You have to analyze a specific area in order to remove the film grain from the plate. So what I'm going to do is to drag this, place it in a nice flat area without obvious patterns inside this area. You can say, for instance, here it's nice and flat. Then you can double click the denoise node. In the properties section, we use the denoise mode constant option here. If we do a comparison between the original plate and the plate which has film grain removed, we can clearly see, if I zoom in, before, after, we can see those noisy patterns are removed. Okay, this gives us a better quality for tracking. This is something I did for this denoise node. After the denoise is finished, I use the 2D tracking node and track the wall, this piece. Then I used 4 tracking points, as we can see here. If I double click this tracker node, I placed the 4 tracking points on, the sharp corner here, for instance, of the brake, and here, and here, and also one here. Then track these 4 tracking points. You might think why you only track a couple of tracking points on this piece of the walls and not other places. The reason for that is because if you say this wall is pretty much on the same plane, but if I track other features, for instance in here, because those tracking features are not on the same plane as this one, and eventually cause inaccurate tracking result. And also these tracking features are located relatively close to the problem area where I want to clean up. So as you can see here, if I click the tracker node in the properties section, then 1, 2, 3, 4, then after that, start to track it. When the track is finished, we want to tick the translation, rotation, and scale for these 4 tracking points. Then after that, as you can see here, we have a couple of expression links. In the following sections, we're going to use this data to drive those individual pieces, which will be happening in section 3 here, as we can say, clean patches. Okay, for clean patches, if I zoom in, we used a frame hold node. If I double click the frame hold, you can see here the first frame in this slot, we used 1445, which is the first frame of this shot. Okay, if I go back to the first frame, we use a frame hold to turn the sequence to a still image. If I highlight it, press 1, then now if I quickly scrub through on the timeline, you can see nothing is moving because the frame hold node. Then after that, point out the latest face and also the hands here. As you can see, that's the sort of clean patch we created for this area. Okay. Then after that, we used a roto node. I used basic shapes to create 2 roto shapes in the alpha channel of this image. If we press the letter A, switch to the alpha channel. Press the letter A, go back to RGB. We want to create a clean patch which has got the latest face and hands removed like this one. But this is a still image. However, the original shot around 1600, then we can say the background here starts to be out of focus. So we need to simulate that for this clean patch, which is a still image. Okay, so that is why we added a defocus node and keyed at 1600 towards the end of this shot, and gradually we can say it's getting out of focus. That's the animation we keyed for the defocus option here, starting from 1600 gradually. You might think, how do you define the value of 15? If we take a look at the original plate, for instance, at frame 1600, let's say this vertical edge, then gradually when we move to the following frames until the last one, we can roughly say this area. If you see this area, it's roughly about 14-15 pixels blurred. So with that in my mind, I applied 15 to the defocus option. Alright, so that is why this defocus node is added here. And also after that, because we are dealing with a still image with film grain removed, alright, if we go back to the section 2, we can say the film grain is removed from original sequence. That is why for the clean patch, for this clean patch, we have no film grain content. So we need to apply the original film grain back to this still patch. So to do that, we used the F3 grain node, as you can see here, and we analyzed a flat area of the original piece. Then after that, the original film grain has been applied to the still image. After the regrain node, we used a pre-mode to isolate this area. This is the actual clean patch we want to use. This result is produced by using a still image. So we need to apply the original film camera movement to this patch. To do that, as you can see here, we use a transform match move, which is, if we follow the expression link, which is driven by the 2D tracker node. Remember that? For the wall, we track the 4 tracking features, then eventually gained the camera movement in 2D. Now, this is applied to this clean patch. If we highlight the transform match move and press 1, we can clearly see the still image is following the camera movement in X and Y. Because we animated the focus node, when we move to 1600, we can see the clean patch has become gradually out of focus. And this matches the original shot. Then after that, we merged this clean patch on top of the original shot. Put A on top of B through a merge node. If you take a look at the result, you can see the lady's face and hands are removed. We did something similar to other elements in the shot. For instance, the shadow on the wall. We use the frame hold to turn the sequence into a still image. Then we rotate this piece of the wall at the first frame, because the first frame is nice and clean without any shadows caused by the hands. And also we use a clone node, clone defocus node, which is copied from this section here. This means the attributes of those clone nodes are identical. Here again around 1600. Okay, so we can see here. Then after that, again, we use F-regrain node to analyze the original film grain, then eventually get the original film grain applied to this patch here. Then after that, pre-mode it, so we can isolate this area only. We don't need the rest of those areas, but only this piece. Then we can clearly see, the original film grain is applied. Okay. And also the defocus node is applied to this clean patch as well. Then used another transform match move, which is driven, again, if we follow the expression link back, is driven by the 2D tracker node. Now, if we take a look at this clean patch, can you see the patch is moving along the camera movement, and also original film grain has been applied to it, and also the defocus node is working as well. At this point, we can say that's the clean patch. Then we can apply the clean patch directly, cover the original problem area, which is here around 1500. You can see the moving shadows, but after that, this area has been replaced. Then the third portion, this single frame was extracted from 1530. If I crank up the exposure, you can see the cables on the ground. We made a shape which covers this area. And we use a rotopent node, use this clone node, then just clean up these cables, as you can see here. So this is something I did here for this image. Obviously, the film grain has been removed. Alright, that's why you can see it's really nice and clean. Then after that, I create a roto shape around this area. Then copy the matte we created by using the roto node to this clean image. Highlight the copy node. We can say alpha copied to alpha. The alpha of the A input has been copied to the alpha channel of the B. If we take a look at the alpha channel by pressing the letter A, you can say the alpha is copied into this clean image. Then after that, because some mismatching issues, I used a transform node to fix the problem. After that, another transform match move node, which is generated and driven by the tracker 1 node above. Now we can say the clean image has got camera movement. Then defocus. For this still image. Then also we need to apply the original film grain extracted from the original sequence to this still image. We did that. We do a comparison before and after. Then pre-mode. Then eventually we isolated this piece only. We use the merge node and integrate the input A on top of the input B, which is this one. Okay. However, we still have some small bits and pieces left here. We still need to remove these control cables. This is something happening in here, this area, as we can see here. Exactly the same concept. Created a still image, apply the camera movements, and then analyze the original film grain, then apply the film grain to this single patch. Then eventually put it on top of the original sequence. Now you can see the film grains are matched. Before it was like this, after this area has been removed. Because we detached all the components in the background in order to fix all the issues and remove the cables and hands and shadows and the latest face, and then we produced something like this. Now it is time to deal with the foreground element. In this case, you can say the hunter. That's the hunter. As we can see, we used a couple of roto shapes to roto the walls and different parts of the character. If we take a look at it, that's it. We also used a key node to key this area and isolate it. Then combine both mattes together. Obviously, the roto shapes are quite sharp, but if we take a look at the original image, it should be blurry. So we apply the blur to the alpha channel of the matte. Then we turn the matte from this to this. Then after that, we use a pre-mode node, isolate this character. We integrate the foreground element on top of this. Then eventually we got this. Now we can say everything has been nicely restored.